Namaskar. You know, we'd always like to remain in a meditative state so that when we sit down and do meditation, it's just easier to perform. So I'd like to share some hints that would help us to keep that mental composure even in the midst of daily life. Of course, it involves some lifestyle changes that we have to be ready for. You know, in our channel, we talk about the different categories of food. There's the sattvic and rajasic and tamasic. So the second level is called rajasic food or mutative food. That food which causes the mind to mutate, change, constantly restless, moving without pause. So those foods are not ideal for keeping mental composure. And examples of some mutative foods would be like white sugar or products containing white sugar, coffee, tea, carbonated drinks, and very hot spices like red chilies. And you know, in our many times, you know, if we are faced with stressful situations in life, it definitely disturbs our mental peace. So as far as possible in our work or in our families, trying not to take on more responsibilities than we can reasonably handle. Otherwise that stress will definitely cause us to lose our mental composure. And in our channel, we've taught what is called half bath. And half bath is a cooling of the face and the joints of the body, because we're constantly moving the joints. And so that generation of heat will disturb our mental flow. So when we're feeling out of sorts or mentally, you know, stressed, that half bath will bring an immediate relief to us. And, you know, sometimes there are certain habits that we have which might disturb our minds because they agitate our senses, whether it's sound or it's touch or it's sight, taste or smell. Because the organs, the sensory organs, are the gateways to the mind. So if they're bringing in vibrations which are making our minds agitated and restless, then those habits or those activities should be given up. So maybe instead of visiting bars or crowded sporting events or crowded cinema halls, maybe we can cultivate the habit of enjoying nature walks or enjoying sounds of nature, observing nature, being in sunlight. And these are very easy vibrations that will keep us in a good mental state. When I was a new meditator, I used to avoid crowds, or I didn't want to stay in shops too long because I wanted to always have that peaceful state that I was enjoying in meditation, even when I wasn't meditating. But of course, I realized that that's not practical and it's not possible. So in our channel, we teach subjective approach through objective adjustment. And it means approaching the subject. Means through meditation, we're approaching or moving towards that supreme subject, the witness of our own mind. That which is the witness of everything, that indivisible, all-pervading, universal consciousness. And objective adjustment. When we're not meditating, we adjust to the realities of the world. So we're not living a life of denial or repression, because doing that, at any moment, that repression will burst out and we'll be in worse shape than we were before. So we should live naturally. And trust that through meditation, yes, we'll gradually be able to, you know, have more and more mental strength to deal with all the challenges that life puts before us. So a good example of this subjective approach to objective adjustment would be, you know, a housewife or a mother. Maybe she's a meditator, maybe she's a vegetarian, but she's cooking non-vegetarian meals for her husband and her children. And you might say, well, how is that good for her spiritual progress? Actually, it is, because she's putting the interests of her family. She's adjusting to the world as it is, ahead of her own interests. And so that definitely will help her spiritual elevation. So another thing that we should try to do is practice remaining in silence for 30 minutes, at least for 30 minutes throughout the day. Because, you know, a talkative person, it's an example of an extroverted mind. So if we can remain silent, this will help very much to keep mental composure. You know, and of course it's not possible to always, be busy when we're in the waking state. So those free moments, we should use them wisely, by singing the Bábá Nam Kevalam mantra, or repeating our personal mantra inside. And this will help to keep a mental composure and a meditative state. So I remember in this regard a story I heard many years ago. This man was enjoying his life. He was enjoying all the pleasures of material existence. And one night, as he was just about to sleep, Yama, the mythological lord of death, appeared at the foot of his bed, and he was carrying a big book in his hands. And he said, "Mr. B, it's time for you to leave the world and come with me." So Mr. B was shocked and very upset, and he said, "No, it's not time for me. Please visit somebody else and come back maybe after 40 years. I'm enjoying so much my life." But Yama consulted the book again, and he said, "No, but according to my records, your time is over, so you'll have to accompany me to the other side." So as much as he tried to convince Yama to change his mind, it didn't work. And so he said, "Give me one last moment in this life." And so Mr. B pulled a needle from his drawer, and he pricked his finger, and he wrote on his pillow, "Man, make good use of your time." So another thing is that throughout the day we're bombarded with so many distractions that disturb our mental composure. So especially from our cell phones. So it's very, very advisable from the moment we sleep until the moment after we do our morning meditation, keep our cell phone on non-responsive mode, or turn it off. So that will give us that window and that space to be free from all mental distractions and do our morning meditation, which is so important for our day. In this channel, you've often heard us say, "As you think, so you become." And it's related to that idea that supreme subject is watching us. So when we remember that we are its object, and the supreme subject is watching everything we do and everything we speak. When we remember this, then this brings great composure to the mind. Because the Bhakti Yoga interpretation of that consciousness, that universal consciousness, is that it's actually a responsive being, a loving being, whose purpose is to liberate all of its created entities like itself. So as we do more and more meditation and we get more deeper into our practice, we actually cultivate a relationship with that invisible, omnipresent entity, and we may even converse with it. And so when we constantly remember that consciousness is there, then this helps us to face every challenge that life puts before us. And you'll actually learn this technique in the lesson number 2, when you learn from Dada or Didi. There's an actual technique of meditation whereby we ascribe the action to that indwelling consciousness, that it is doing the action through this body and this mind. And this brings a great mental balance and keeps us in a meditative state. So although this talk is about how to remain in a meditative state when we're not meditating, the real situation, or the ideal situation, would be that we adjust to the world, we're full of zeal, we're full of inspiration and energy when we're in the world, and when it's time to meditate, we can shift easily into meditative mode. So we go from extrovertive to introvertive. And through the half bath and through the Bábá Nam Kevalam kirtan, the dance, it creates that transition phase from the activities of the external world and the pause and the movement in the inner world through meditation. So this is the path which we're advocating, a path that on one side it builds dynamism and resilience to all the challenges of life, that we face them bravely and we overcome them. And at the same time we develop subtlety, a subtle mind, through the constant and regular practice of meditation on consciousness. So these are some habits that I hope you could some tips that I hope you could use for your daily life, whether it's on a physical level or mental level, spiritual level. And yes, it involves a lifestyle change. Be patient. These things do change with time and with effort. So be patient and trust that that inner guide is always ready to help us along the way. Thank you. Namaskar.